Hello, everybody, and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. It's the fans' voice. Listen, lads, we obviously had a lovely win on Friday night against Leeds. We're sixth in the table as far as I've seen. Chelsea have lost tonight, so we could leapfrog them next week when we play them, or even this week. Lads, how do we feel about that Leeds game? I know it's a bit of a broad question, but at times I thought, here we go. Haller was having a bit of a shocker. We were missing chances, as we tend to normally do. But we got the win. The set piece is told.
Yeah, no, really good performance, mate. I wouldn't say it was quite as good as the Leicester performance, but for me, it was right up there with one of our best performances of the season. Apart from the first 5 minutes, obviously we conceded the penalty, but apart from that, we dominated the game. We had 19 shots, and if it had finished 4-5-1, it wouldn't have flattered us whatsoever. So yeah, really good performance against the high intensity pressing side. Really good to see.
Yeah, I agree. I actually thought we when we set up with a 4-2-3-1, I think probably quite a few of us were a bit nervous. I was one of them. I was like, I haven't seen West Ham with a back four since Newcastle, so I didn't know what to expect. But it seemed like we set up all right. Obviously, then the first 5 minutes, I think we got caught off a little bit and we were trying to adjust. But after that, we created, we looked comfortable. Leeds didn't really hurt us as much as I thought they would.
No, they didn't. I was one of the ones like you, Corey, that was quite vocal about not wanting us to go to four at the back. I'm pleased that I've been proven wrong. But yeah, I think Moyes got the tactics spot on. As you say, he was a little bit slow. I think them sort of first 5 minutes or so. Haller just wasn't strong enough at all for that, for the penalty. And generally his all-round game wasn't that great. I'm sure we'll probably touch on that in a little while. But I think that Moyes, you've got to give him credit. It was a bit more of a low block, which I was pleased to see, rather than trying to press Leeds. I think if we tried to match them, it could have been the other way around. But all the players put in a shift, and happy days, 3 points, and it's great to be looking up the table rather than looking down and being worried about where the next win's going to come from. But at the minute, we're looking very, very good.
Yeah, to echo what Mark was saying there, I think when I saw the team sheet, I was pretty nervous. I personally would have gone with the five at the back. I think naturally you could have moved Cresswell to the left wing back and brought in Diop, and that would have fit quite well. And then after 2 minutes, I was sort of fearing the worst. I couldn't really see us coming back into the game, especially because I think I said on the show a couple of weeks ago that Leeds are one of the teams that I feared most this season. Just the football they play, they're sort of the sort of team which we never seem to do well against. But I was proved wrong, and the four at the back, we sort of looked more and more solid as the game went on. And I suppose the most pleasing aspect of playing at that four at the back was we finally got to see Benrahma start. We got to see him play through the middle, which was just, he was just a breath of fresh air, really. It really did feel like I was watching the second coming of Dimitri Payet at times. And every single time he got the ball, I think it was just, you felt like he was going to do something with it. And he made such a difference. And it just meant that we were such a force to be reckoned with going forward. As I think Bill said, we could have scored 4 or 5 in the end. And in the end, it turned out to be a great performance.
I thought Benrahma was absolutely fantastic. We could sit here and wax lyrical till the cows come home, but I thought I knew what I was getting. We'd seen him a little bit for a few sub appearances this season. Obviously, he's contributed already with assists, but when you see him start in that 10 role, picking it up and keeping hold of the ball and beating players, it's like we've got a real player on our hands, lads.
Yeah, we all know what Benrahma is capable of. We all know what he was going to bring to us, and to be fair, I feel like, especially when you have someone like Fornals and Bowen, who are sort of working back and doing the defensive work as well as the attacking work. It's nice to have a player who can sort of go off on his own, create a bit, be the playmaker, be the person who, gives a little bit of magic to the team. And, I think we've already seen from his sub appearances what he can do in a short amount of time. And I think it was just great to see him be fully exposed to the fans, just for how good he is, really. And hopefully against Palace, we'll see him again do something really special. And I've got him in my fancy Premier League team. I'm looking forward to getting some points. I'm looking forward to getting some points from him. But yeah, overall the performance was really good, especially coming off the back of a pretty gutting loss. It's quite easy to kind of fall down the trap of losing one game, then losing another, and sort of losing that momentum. But it was good to kind of come right back with the win, sets us in good stead for the Christmas fixtures, and hopefully we can come away with maybe 6 or 7 points in this upcoming run.
Yeah, and I thought as well what was good to see is the fact that, the amount of conversations we've had over the past few weeks, either Fornals or Benrahma, but the fact that Moyes has got both of them in that side. And I know possibly we didn't see enough from Fornals. He had that chance where I thought he should have got it on target at least. And again, unfortunately with Fornals, that does happen every week, so it is to be expected. But it's good to see the fact that now we're playing with almost like an attacking three behind Haller. Let's touch on Haller first and foremost. Where do you start? Was it just an off day, or do you think the formation doesn't suit him? Because I think the formation, in theory, should benefit him. So I was a bit sort of confused as to why he was struggling on Friday night.
Yeah, I think just an off day, mate. I think he had plenty of the ball, but when he did receive the ball, his touch was awful, and he missed some chances. It was some good defending, you could argue, from Leeds, but on another day, Haller gets a hat trick. So it's a shame because he's played well last few games, but against Leeds, it was an off day. So I wouldn't be too concerned really. If it carries on next few games, then something to worry about. But hopefully, it's just an off night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, to be honest. I think it was just an off night for him. I think from watching a number of horrific West Ham strikers over the years, there was times where you saw a striker line up and it felt like they could be there for 1,000 minutes and they wouldn't come close to scoring a goal. But I didn't feel like that with Haller. Yes, his touch was off and his hold-up play wasn't as good as we've seen, but he still managed to create the chances, which I think was the main thing. Yes, he didn't finish any of them. He could have had 3 or 4 and he didn't score any, but he still got himself into the positions. And we saw with that overhead kick at the end that he has got genuine ability, which is more than we can say about a lot of West Ham strikers we've seen over the years. So yeah, an off day, but I mean, I am still a fan of him.
Yeah, it was one of them, wasn't it? Like it was. I think at the time I was massively overcritical. I think Charles would attest to that.
I was joining in.
But I don't think it's necessarily sort of against Haller personally. But you look at the amount of chances West Ham miss, and I know listen. I can't complain too much. We're 6th in the league, and I don't want to moan, but we do miss an awful lot. Right, got this camera. Hang on.
It's every week at the moment.
Yeah, it's every week.
All over the place, mate.
Hang on. Yeah, no, I mean, we miss an awful lot of chances, so I was a bit fearful that it was going to be one of them days. And, I kind of wonder in this formation where week on week we've asked Haller to come deep, pick the ball up and try and play it in behind. Now we're in a different formation where we've got someone like Benrahma or Fornals that can pick the ball up and carry it. Do you think sort of Haller's position as a striker in this system, he's got to be more of a focal point, possibly try and make runs and run off maybe a Benrahma or Fornals?
The thing is he's just not that type of player. I mean, when he was doing well at Frankfurt, he had 2 quicker and more skillful and sort of attacking players surrounding him in Rebic and Jovic. And, those 2 players were always, going off of his flicks, off of his flick-ons. Haller was setting them up, holding the ball up and then setting them off. So, and our formation at the moment is sort of too wide to really adapt to him in that sense. And I think, obviously, we all know that Antonio is so dangerous as a one-man striker because he can run, he can bully defenders, he can do everything. Speaking about the Leeds game, I mean, yeah, he made quite a few mistakes and I wasn't too happy with his performance. But you are seeing a Haller of recent weeks at least that's been running about, putting himself about and putting in a lot of effort. And that's one thing that I will give him credit for is it does look like he's kind of enjoying himself a little bit more, putting a bit more effort on the pitch. And I think he will, I know Dennis will defend him until the cows come home, but he is right. He is right when he says that you give him time in that role, then he's more, he's going to adapt to it and he's going to become stronger in that role as well. Whether he keeps that starting position when Antonio comes back from injury, well, I mean, all you have to do is look at the last game that he was that Antonio was fit for, and maybe Moyes will answer that for you already. But I'm hoping that he gets a nice few consecutive starts now up until the end of the year, and maybe we'll see a few goals from him too.
Yeah, I don't think the formation had anything to do with Haller's performance. I think it suits Haller, this formation, much better than it did. Friday. I haven't seen any heat maps or touch maps or anything, but I would think he had a lot more touches than usual. I'd say on Friday, just his touch was off. So I think it's just one of those things, really. And having Benrahma in behind him, buying 4 nails, he had runners off him, and as Charles, have you said, at Frankfurt, he had runners off him, and I think we had a sort of similar, type of formation on Friday, but unfortunately just didn't make the most of it. But if we play the same formation against Palace tomorrow, then hopefully we'll see a different performance.
Yeah, the system suits it. Well, I mean, we've sat here for weeks and weeks, haven't we? Sitting there saying, he needs service in behind and service to him. It was just an interesting sort of perspective because for parts of that game, you see Haller doing what he's been asked to do for probably 3 or 4 weeks in that sort of 3-4-3. Now it's changed; it actually suits him. Again, I suppose there is that little bit of adaptation again. But listen, I was too overly critical of him on that game. It was just one of them nights. But had we drawn, I would have been sitting there going, "Oh, you'd rue it." But with the Antonio thing, obviously, we're hearing it again that he's fit for Chelsea. I mean, needless to say, do you trust either Moyes or Antonio to declare their fitness for this game, or do you just play Haller and be sensible?
I personally think that Haller should start against Chelsea and save Antonio. As I've said on here before, this month we all know it's obviously exciting time for supporters. The game's coming thick and fast, but for someone that's coming back from a hamstring injury, especially with someone who's got the history that Antonio has got, always breaking down, pretty much every single time he comes back from an injury, it would be crazy for West Ham to even consider starting him in that game. Because we've got other games that are coming up. I mean, I'd much rather see Antonio get 20 minutes or so against the Thiago Silva. I know Silva's a very good defender, but just sort of from the tiring aspects and stuff. However, I think as you've just touched on, I think we've already seen the decision on that from Moyes, and that's that he's going to, if Antonio's fit, he's going to rush him straight back into that starting 11. Which I personally, as I said before, I find that crazy personally.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's the worst thing we could possibly do. I think over the last few years, every single time there's been a 50-50 decision with a player's fitness of whether we rush them back, whether they're fully fit or not, and whether we decide to start them, we've got it wrong. It happened with Carroll about 50 times where we rushed him back too quickly and then he was off again inside 20 minutes.
And a bit more as well.
Yeah, exactly. It happened with Wilshere. It happened with Fabianski last year. And I think I can see why they did it with Fabianski last year, especially because we had the worst goalkeeper in the history of football in net. But so you had to try something. But there's no need to panic here. We're sitting 6th in the league. Yes, Haller's performances might not have been stellar, might not have been as good as the performances we'd seen from Antonio at the start of the year. But we're sitting 6th in the league. Since Antonio's been out injured, I think we lost the Liverpool game and the Man United game, didn't we? But we've won 4 out of our last 5. Yeah. He's not doing as badly as people might be making out. It's almost like because West Ham are doing so well, we're looking for a scapegoat, and because everyone else on the pitch is doing so well, Haller's almost become that person to blame. But yeah, I'm with Mark. I really don't think that we should be rushing Antonio back, especially with this busy Christmas period. Even if he comes back in January, there's going to be 25 games left or 20 odd games left this season. There's no need to do anything stupid. And you've just got that feeling. We tried to rush him back too quickly and we were almost lucky that he's only been out for an extra few weeks. If we do it again too soon, then that could be him out for the season, and then we're going to have some real problems.
The other thing as well to remember is that we've got a game on the 27th and then the 29th of December.
Yeah.
So what I don't get
and
this
the first now as well, isn't it? Because they've moved it today. So.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
So again, that's another reason for me why you wouldn't rush him, because I can't see. Let's say we're going to rush Antonio back into the team. I can't see Antonio playing on the 27th, and then as I was saying on them days, I don't think I'll be surprised if we keep the same 11. So we do need to have that at the back of our mind. But I think we've kind of already seen what Moyes will potentially do. I think,
in a way, like we were talking about the Carroll thing. Back when Carroll was playing for West Ham, we rushed him back. He was that guy, wasn't he? We needed him back for the goals. And I think the most impressive thing about this West Ham side is we can create chances from open play, from set pieces. We've got multiple avenues to do it. Listen, we've spoke about the squad depth a million times. It isn't good enough. You're hoping January Josh King comes in, we keep Haller, and we've got 3 senior strikers. But for me, just don't rush Sebastien Haller. I know it might be tempting against Chelsea, given obviously their weaknesses in defence and when they press too high. I get it, but you would back West Ham in that game, wouldn't you? I mean, I'm not saying we're going to go there and win it, and he's a while away, but we've got enough, haven't we? Really, across the squad.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't go there and win. They've improved from last season, but you could say we have as well. So I don't, we've done well against the top sides this season. So I don't see why we can't go there and get a result. Obviously, we did last season under different circumstances. But I'd take a draw right now if you offered it to me. But it depends on the game, obviously how it goes. But yeah, I don't see why we can't go into there and get 3 points.
Yeah, I want to touch on something because I saw it on social media and I don't know how much is true, obviously, because it is.
I think I know what's about to happen.
Yeah, I know what's coming.
I think I know what's about to happen.
Do you know what? Yeah. No, it's not who you think it is. It's not who you think it is. We can touch on it if you want. We can touch on it if you want. Given Henry's written an article on it. They got, obviously, Arnautovic's name keeps being brought up. I think that's pure. Listen, look. Take all the antics outside of it. Yes, of course, Arnautovic, if he was anything like he was, when he was at West Ham, would be great for the side. There's no denying it. But are we all in agreement? Like his attitude, everything, the fact age has gone on as well. We don't know what Arnie you would get back hypothetically. Where does everyone stand on it as a hypothetical transfer?
You would think that everyone is unanimous in saying, someone who's done us over so badly in the past, and especially with his prick of a brother as well. You'd think that there's no place back for him, but then there's people like Jeff Wilkinson who, no matter how much he's been abused by him, no matter how much he's done wrong to him, he'll still take him back. And I said to him yesterday, I said, he's just going to go and cheat on you again. Don't do it. Don't let it happen. All right. I mean, Arnie, look, we all know he's a quality player. We all know that he's an absolute bastard and he's got claret and blue running through his veins. But it would be mental. It'd be mental, especially with the amount of stability that Moyes has brought along. I mean, from some of the quotes that I've been looking at today, I don't know whether we were talking about this later, but some of the quotes from Souček talking about a lot of the West Ham players talking about Sema from Slavia Prague. I mean, blimey, if we could get someone like him, I mean, I wouldn't be too. I think I'm going to have to start supporting Slavia Prague from now on, if I'm honest, boys. I mean,
second team,
it's our academy. It's our academy at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I just think there are better options out there, younger options out there, and we're just looking for, I think, a different type of player at this stage.
Categorically, it's a no for me. How he engineered his move for a good, long period before he finally got what he wanted. Obviously, he was a very good player for us, especially once Moyes moved him to centre forward. But as Charles just said there, I think the team spirit that has been built up really since back in March with that lockdown since they come back from then. I think that is too precious to me. I think look at the goal. Of Bonner's goal, where all the outfield players were all round celebrating. If you got someone like Arnautovic in there, would we see the same? I mean, I don't remember all the players rushing before when he used to score a few goals towards him, because I think of his attitude and his arrogance. And let's be honest, he's pissed off to that Mickey Mouse League in China, and he's scored. I've seen he scored 16 goals in a year and a half. Is that a so-called top player? For in that division, 16 goals, not in a million years.
You tell him, Mark. You tell him.
Say what you mean, Mark.
No way.
Right, I think it's called the Manuel Pellegrini effect. It's when you piss off for cash and then you come back and you're not half the person you were before.
Yeah.
I mean, has anyone actually seen Arnautovic in any highlight of him in China for a long time? Because I haven't seen anything of the bloke.
I saw some quotes that he weren't taking the training seriously over there.
That's what I saw.
That doesn't sound like him.
Yeah, so that's the thing. But Arnautovic, ability-wise, I think that 2018, that calendar year, the end of Moyes' first season and the start of Pellegrini, he was sensational for us. But that's 2 years ago now, and time has moved on, and he's got too much baggage. I think it just might destabilise our season. Like when Asprilla would join Newcastle, all that time. Do you know what I mean? It might just have a negative effect rather than actually be a positive. So he did well for us, but time to move on.
Yeah, I think I agree with what all the boys are saying. However much part of me would love that player that developed under Moyes to come back, because he was outstanding for us. I think he almost single-handedly kept us up that season. His performances the second half of the year were just extraordinary. He's one of the best strikers in the league, like pretty unplayable on his day. But you forget about his attitude, you forget about the way you can't forget about the way he forced his way out of the club, and you almost think it's inevitable that it would happen again. And as Bill said, the only reports I've really seen of him are that he's not taking the training seriously, that he's become quite overweight, he hasn't been putting the performances in over in China. So I think even if we did re-sign him, it would probably take a couple of months for him to regain his fitness. And I mean, we wouldn't really displace Antonio, I don't think, and he's definitely not going to want to sit on the bench if he does come back. He'd probably demand stupidly high wages. So yeah, even though there's part of me that remembers the good old days, I just think it's a no.
Well, leopards never change their spots, as Roy Keane famously says all the time. I mean, he engineered his move from Stoke to us, and then he obviously engineered his move to Lever. So it's going to happen. If we did get him, it happen 18 months' time. It will happen again. So there's no point.
I think break up with him, mate. Just break up with him.
It's like that Payet thing, isn't it? You know, when you sometimes see Payet and he's trying to get out of Marseille, and some people go, "God, can you imagine Payet?" But again,
I'd have him back in a heartbeat, though.
If Payet's all right.
If he's 60, I'll have him back, mate.
Let's get Tevez back as well, boys.
Oh God, no. Do you know what? Like, you're right. I mean, even if I'm playing, devil's advocate here. If you got him back, hypothetically, Moyes was the guy that almost turned him into that striker role, and possibly could be credited with his sort of transformation in form. Again, though, like Mark said, the spirit of the squad in general, this season's been the best that I've seen it in a long, long time, and anything to destabilise that. I mean, and like we even touched with the Antonio thing, we create chances. I know we don't always take them, but we do, and you kind of think, I think we'd be all right. We do need a striker, but we'd be all right without Arnie.
Yeah, agreed.
Right. Now, let's get on to business, right? We've obviously got Crystal Palace tomorrow evening. Thoughts on Palace, lads? Because actually, you look at their past two results, 5-1 against West Brom, a draw against Spurs, which is a good result. I mean, they are, for me, having looked at them in the preview, they're a little bit underrated, if I'm honest. They're no frills, very pragmatic, but a couple of good signings from Hodgson, particularly with Eze. They look decent going forward.
Yeah, I think they are pretty underrated this season. I think when you look at their squad, they have got a decent squad on paper, and everybody knows with Hodgson that he just knows how to set up his side, especially against the big team, and grind out results. Obviously, I've seen quite a lot of what the fan pages are saying, because infamously the West Ham and Crystal Palace fan pages on Twitter just seem to go at each other constantly. All I've seen throughout the week is these combined West Ham and Palace 11s where their fans are putting 9 of their players in, and we've got Gary Cahill starting, and like I think ours are putting in basically the entire West Ham team. But one thing that I have seen from their fan pages is saying that they've often thought that Hodgson's team selection this season has been really negative. We saw that it took a long, long time for Eze to start for them. They just seemingly set up quite negative. So if he does that against West Ham, which I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because he would have seen the way we played against Leeds, and he'll definitely see the likes of Benrahma and Bowen as threats, then I think they're there for the taking.
Yeah, I thought, last season they didn't score a lot of goals. They only scored 31, which is, I think, the second lowest in the division. But this season they already scored 18. So even though Hodgson's a pretty pragmatic manager, they've scored some goals. I mean, they blitzed Man United on the opening day, and they played well against Tottenham. And they've got some good players like Eze, Zaha, Benteke starting to get some form back. Guaita in goal was very underrated goalkeeper. He had some worldy saves. He made a mistake for Kane's goal, but some absolute worldy saves in the second half. So Cahill's a good defender, solid pro. So yeah, they've got some good players. But I think they did double over us last season, but generally before that, our record against them, home and away, was all right before that. So I don't see why we can't go and get a result against them tomorrow.
They're a tough one, aren't they? They're a tough one because for so long with Palace, every time I watch them, it feels like a bit of the Zaha show. Do you know what I mean? I know they've got Ayew in there that links the play up, but Zaha is their talisman. And I think he's benefited from what I've seen massively in Eze. And like Ollie says, he I think Palace fans were frustrated they weren't seeing Eze enough because, you've seen him in the Championship. He can make that step up. And you see him the other day, unbelievable on the ball. And he just gives that. Well. It gives other teams things to think about while Zaha can create that space for him. And I think Zaha is a dangerous player when he's got a bit of space.
Well, even Benteke is having a bit of a sort of rejuvenation of recent at Palace as well. And so when you've got someone like him, kind of stepping up and playing well as well, you've got a load of great attacking options for Palace. I've always considered them one of the kind of most annoying bogey teams in the Premier League because they always seem to kind of pull off these big results against the big teams. And
City away a couple of seasons ago when Townsend scored that.
Yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it? I mean, they're going to be difficult, and we can't we've got to make sure that we put we get 3 points against them because if you get 3 points against a team like that, then you know that you're going well and you're doing well, and it will be good to have 2 wins on the bounce, Leeds and Palace, going into a game like Chelsea as well.
Yeah, can't afford to be complacent.
No, definitely not. I think as the guys have touched on there, obviously before it always felt that Palace were a little bit more about Zaza. Or Zaha, however you pronounce his name. And, obviously with,
I wish it was Zaza.
That'd be all right, wouldn't it?
Well, some of the shooting of Zaza that we had probably did end up in Crystal Palace, to be honest. But with the signing of Eze now, it gives them another threat, which obviously before teams would just set up and worry about the one man. But I think now they've got the different options. I don't think it's going to be easy by any stretch, but yeah, I'm feeling confident. I don't think there's anything there really that we have to worry too much about. But yeah, I think we go into this game as favourites for me.
Yeah, I think that's the difference, by the way. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit. Was that, when you see this game kind of come up, and in previous seasons, West Ham, we beat Leeds, we're flying high, and then all of a sudden you go and play like a Palace and you lose 2-0, and you're thinking they just switched off, but none of that this season. There doesn't, that sort of complacency, that attitude and mindset doesn't seem to be really in the squad at all.
No, not. I think you got to credit Moyes for that. The mentality he's obviously had. With the lockdown, I think he had that sort of advantage in a way, if you like, of really getting the team moulded them almost like a pre-season in many respects. And I think that he's got the players playing not just for him, but I think for each other. And I think that was obviously something that was lacking towards the end of Pellegrini's spell. And I know we're in fantastic form and obviously sitting so high up the league and everything, but I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just feel confident in every game. Even going 1-0 down against Leeds, I just thought, well, the form that we're in, there's definitely an opportunity for here to get a goal or two. And certainly, that's my attitude at the moment. I just think that Moyes is doing a fantastic job for us. Obviously, being backed up by the players on the pitch, and it's great to see at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I think the effort. I don't think it was there against Newcastle, but even the games we lost, apart from that, you can't fault the effort of the players. Just results not gone our way. So, but that's the minimum we expect from any team, especially West Ham. So, if the other team beats us because they've played better rather than working harder than us. So that's good to see. Something
that goes massively under the radar, just thinking about now, was obviously, for a long period of time, I'm not digging him out at all, but Mark Noble was the captain and he was in the side. And even Moyes tried to play him in almost like a 10 role last season at times. But obviously this season we've seen Noble drop out, Declan Rice taking the captain's armband. How much do you think that's made a difference? Because I think Declan's leadership as well on that pitch has been superb. And I think that has made a little bit of a difference for West Ham this season.
I think it's made an absolutely huge difference. I was going to touch on it actually a couple of minutes ago, but Noble's sort of willingness to take a back step this season has been integral to our success, because I don't think any West Ham fan out there would ever wish him to leave the club, but for large periods of last year, there were times where you watched him on the pitch and you just wished that he wasn't there. And I remember thinking it in the Everton game this season as well, because he is a fantastic player on the ball. He can create stuff, but all too often he used to slow down play, pick up the ball deep, take about 17 touches with it, and then just lay it back to the centre-back. And I think now with Rice, obviously Rice's leadership has been fantastic as well, but his partnership with Souček has become one of the best central midfield partnerships in in the world, in the Premier League for sure. Yeah, I know. And I mean, I think, especially I saw it in the Leeds game. The thing I've been so impressed with is both Rice and Souček's ability to win the 50-50s, because they're both so big, they're both so physical. Whenever there's a loose ball, it seems like if Rice doesn't get it, Souček's going to get it, and vice versa. And I think their partnership has just been so pivotal to the way we've played this season. But I mean, we saw as well in the Leeds game that yes, Noble's not starting anymore, but he can still have an influence. He is still captain. We saw when he came onto the pitch, Rice immediately went over, gave him the armband. You can imagine that he's still probably the one giving the team talks in the dressing room. And if we need to close out a game with 10, 15 minutes to go, he can come on and put a shift in. So his sort of the impact he can have for this team isn't over, but I think it is brilliant, and it's been great to see that he sort of accepted that he's going to play a different role in the team this season.
I think he wanted. Oh, go on, mate.
I was just going to say he's great at taking it into the corner. That's for sure. Great. That's why I wanted you to talk, because that wasn't a serious point. I was like, I can't interrupt for that.
Well, after he slayed Antonio against Palace the other season about not taking it into the corner, but I don't know if it was before the season started again or before this season, where Noble said he didn't expect to play. He didn't expect to play a lot like the season just gone. So I think he's kind of not wished to not play that much, but he thought he'd be a sort of rotation squad player, and I think he's more than okay with that, especially at his age.
Yeah, and also on the subject of leaders, how many leaders have we got in that squad now? Do you know what I mean? I've seen Creswell's birthday was today or yesterday, I can't really remember. But you've got the defensively, Ogbonna as well makes it. Fabianski's a leader. We've got a real solid spine of the team, and we've got some real players in there that I think Moyes trusts, and they trust Moyes, and that kind of relationship is what's really helping us, particularly when we go 1-0 down against Leeds away from home.
Well, it's funny because when you bring up Arnautovic, I remember a couple of seasons ago when him and Noble were somehow the only two sort of senior figures in the locker room, and I was thinking, God, that's really a recipe for disaster when you only have those two being our leaders. And like you say, right now we have so many great leaders right now. I'd say Ogbonna's got to be one of the most influential. I mean, both on and off the pitch. But I mean, it's what Moyes has really done well is combining a sense of seniority in the squad, a lot of senior players stepping up and taking on that leadership role, mixing that with the sort of youthful, skillful, kind of up and coming players like Benrahma and Bowen, people like that who need that sort of kind of mentorship to kind of propel them to where they want to be. And I think Moyes, he doesn't get everything right, but what he has gotten right so far is just finding that stability within the club hierarchy, and he's done a great job of that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it's from a serious topic to something that's a little bit more trivial, because this has been banded around. All he mentioned about these sort of combined 11s and this comparison between Eze and Benrahma. On a serious note, before we obviously go with Team Benny, what are your thoughts on both the players and generally the differences between the two? Because listen, both are superb, if I'm honest. I'd have both, but obviously Benrahma's looking a little bit special at the moment.
I think I'd be lying if I said that I'd watched absolutely loads of Eze. So I probably haven't watched enough of him to make a proper comparison between the two. The bits that I've watched of him from Palace this season, I think he's looked fantastic. And when I saw we were linked with him over the summer, he was certainly a player that I really wanted us to sign. At the end of the day, though, I wouldn't switch him for Benrahma. I think when you look at who won the championship awards last year, it was Benrahma who won Player of the Season. I think I'm right in saying. And even though Eze won a lot of plaudits with QPR, it was Benrahma who was often considered, one of the best, or almost the best player in the league. So yeah, I'm impressed with both players, and I would have liked to sign Eze, but I don't think I'd switch him for Benrahma in any way. They do seem pretty similar in a number of ways. Both very skillful, both like to go forward. But as I said before, I probably haven't watched enough of Eze to make a genuine comparison between the two.
Yeah, I'm the same as Ollie. I haven't seen enough of Eze really to give a a proper verdict on him. What I have seen of him, he obviously looks very good, nice and direct, and he's obviously not afraid to try and take a player on, but he can obviously pick out a pass. But yeah, I mean, if he was doing this combined 11, obviously it's going to be Benrahma all day. As Ollie just said, he's won numerous awards last year, not just last year, but I think the year before as well. He was right up there in the mix for the Championship Player of the Year award. He's obviously scored a lot of goals, and he just looks a bit more of a bigger threat for me as well. And I think that as we start seeing him now getting his chance in the league, I think that we will see why he was the Championship, one of the best players in the league last year. He's a much better player for me from what I've seen.
Lovely stuff. Clean sweep, Bill, Charles, feel the same?
Yeah, well, I think they're both similar players, as the lads have said. Both direct, good at dribbling, a threat with the ball. And Eze, I thought played well against Tottenham on Sunday. But I wouldn't swap Benrahma, I'll tell you that much. So, I think they both had the ability to play in the Premier League. Like some players where the Championship's their level, like Cameron Jerome, never lit up the Premier. He never lit up the Premier League, but the Championship is his level. Whereas I think Benrahma and Eze, their levels were above the Championship, and I think they've shown that in their brief appearances so far.
Yeah, completely agree. I think both players are young and talented, and but again, echoing what Bill said, I wouldn't feel hard done by now that we've got Benrahma now. I wouldn't really want to swap him. So I mean, the funny thing with Palace is that they've got such a great kind of attacking core, very much like us, to be fair. We've got very sort of potent attacking core, and it would be interesting to see if you did a combined 11, if you put everyone up against each other, who'd come out on top, because there's a lot of talent on both teams attacking wise.
Yeah, it's listen, the Championship for years has been kind of, I know people, like Bill said, there are the likes of Cameron Jerome where they sort of flip between the two and never really make it up, but really, there's been a lot of Championship talent that has stepped up. You look at Jarrod Bowen as well.
Yeah, Antonio Cresswell.
Madison for Leicester. That's another one that goes
you look at Villa, and Watkins and Cash this season as well have been pretty good. So
no, definitely there's a few gems down there. I mean, I think we've been linked with, is it Adam Armstrong from Blackburn? I haven't seen him. Yeah, Ivan Toney.
He's not too lightweight though. I haven't watched too much of him, but he's tiny, isn't he?
God, I've got no idea. I just every 5 seconds, mate, on Twitter, just say, "Oh, we're linked with Adam Armstrong, quality player."
He's not massively tall, but from what he's doing this season, he's certainly one to look out for. If we can get him cheap as well, that'd be quality.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Listen, lads, obviously we've got upcoming fixtures. We're 6th in the Premier League. We've obviously got Palace, Chelsea, and then we've got Brighton and Southampton. How do you think West Ham are gonna fare? Do you think there's gonna be a few? Do you think Southampton might be one of the? I know Chelsea obviously, but Southampton this season have looked really, really lively, and they concern me a little bit.
Yeah, but I totally agree. But our record against Southampton has been pretty good, I'd say, recently, last few years. I think the Brighton one's the one where, even though they're struggling, our record against them has been woeful. Like, we haven't beaten them since they got promoted.
Yeah.
Really? Don't remind me about last year.
Not home or away, since they got promoted, we haven't beaten them. So that's one to look out for.
I was at the Brighton game last year, and it was actually painful to watch. The
3-3, yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, that was embarrassing throwing that.
I haven't forgiven Diop since, honestly.
Let it go, mate. Let it go. I mean, Diop can't even get in the squad at the moment over Craig Dawson, which I thought was a weird one as well. Like, talking about
Dawson's a leader. Dawson's a leader.
Where's Angus when you need him?
I think I saw Sam Ingersoll said today, because he was in Moyes' press conference, that apparently Diop wasn't injured. He brought in Craig. He thought Craig Dawson deserved to go in the squad because apparently he's been vocal in training or something. Exactly. I think there's something more to it than that.
Oh, yeah, he's part of Will Salthouse 5-a-side, isn't he? So definitely there's something to do with that. Before we wrap it up, lads, obviously I'll go to you all for your score predictions. Hopefully you've all gone West Ham 3-0, but we shall see. Bill?
West Ham 2-1. I think Palace will score on the counter, but I fancy us to convert our chances for once.
Sure, I hope so. Charles?
I'm going to say West Ham 3-1, and I think Benrahma's going to be on the score sheet. So get your bets in now, fellas.
Mark normally gets it quite spot on, actually. Mark, go on.
I'm going to go comfortable 2-0 win. I think it'll be very easy for us.
Oh, okay.
Oof.
And Ollie.
I was actually going to say exactly what Chell said with a 3-1 and Benrahma on the score sheet. So I'll switch it up and say 2-1 instead. But I'm almost positive that Benrahma's going to score. I've stuck him in the fantasy team and I can just feel it.
Oh, God, I hope so. I'll put Souček in for the first time this season, so I'm hoping he gets a goal. I'm going 2-1 West Ham. I think Palace could get a goal against us, but I fancy Benrahma to get his first goal for West Ham, and maybe Jarrod Bowen. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a exciting game, lads. I mean, if we win it, above Chelsea, lovely job. Everything's going sweet. When I started the channel, it was very negative, but all of a sudden it's not. So I'll take it while it lasts. Listen, lads, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you drop a like on the channel. I think I'm only 90 away from 5,000 subscribers. It's ridiculous. So if you are watching this, get on it, subscribe, and then I can do a nice little announcement video eventually. So I'll get the lads to send in their clips of saying thank you for the 5K. So wrap it up there. Thank you so much. Come on, you Irons. Let's beat Crystal Palace.